When Disney closed their hand-drawn animation studio in 2004, I was unsure what to do next as an artist. By chance, I met a pastor from a church in Mobile, Alabama, who asked me to create some murals for his children's ministry. He had seen my wooden puzzles and asked if I could create wood relief sculptures on a large scale. I said sure and sat down to create some proposal drawings to sell to the church committee. I needed reference material for the landscape and the fauna of the Holy Land, so I went to the library. It was a weekday around 1:30 in the afternoon, and this small one-story building wasn't too busy with people. I remember a librarian sat at the checkout desk, a handful of people were seated at computers in the main atrium on tables, and a few were walking around. No kids. Above the computer tables were large skylights that provided the lighting for the entire building. The day was mostly sunny with a few clouds, so the place was well lit. I went to the computer catalog and found a Dewey Decimal call number for a book on Israel that sounded perfect. Let's say the number to this book was 17. The aisle where the book was stored was empty of people save one heavy-set woman blocking me from getting down to the far end. The aisle was narrow, and I remember having to uncomfortably squeeze past this woman. I was successful in not making any physical contact and got to the other end of the aisle. She found her book and left the aisle, and I was left there alone. A cloud went over the skylight, and the entire library darkened as if a storm was coming. It didn't matter. I was looking for a book, and that's what I was there for. Reading the book numbers, my book should be on the bottom shelf. I crouched over and read the numbers 14, 15, 16, 18. The book wasn't there, but there was a gap where it should have been. I took a step back in this narrow aisle to see if there were other books on the subject, when I felt the corner of a book behind me stab into my back as if it were sticking off the shelf. I turned around to see this book, but no books were sticking out past the shelf. So I thought this was strange. I dismissed it and went back to looking disappointedly at the missing book on the bottom shelf. The book wasn't there. So just as I was about to leave, a force which I can't explain thrust me forward into the bookshelf in front of me. It moved me with such power that my head flung back and my chest went forward, but I was able to catch myself with my hands before my face got smashed into the bookshelf. Now, nose to nose with a book at my head level, I focused on the book directly in front of me as I straightened up, and it was book number 17, the one I was looking for. It was put back in the wrong place, and I would not have ever looked there. But as soon as I took it off the shelf and held it in my hands, the sun came back out and the whole place brightened up again. I was a little shook. Nobody else in the library had even moved. Everything was just how it was before. I looked around, eyes wide, said nothing, and checked out the book. I used this reference book for my illustrations and got the job. I actually had a successful career creating biblical murals around the country for 13 years after that. I was glad for the push, but I still can't explain it. What could it have been?